Ken, happy Super Bowl Sunday. Thank you for joining the Bethel Men's Club today so we can talk about the Super Bowl with Ken Weinman of 105.7 The Fan. And first things first, it was a disappointing season for our Baltimore Ravens. How do you think they'll bounce back next year?
Well, I think they got a lot of work to do. Lamar Jackson, who the Ravens were confident they'd get him under contract during the year. They did not. He doesn't have an agent. That's a little complicated. He also didn't have a great year. He started off great. His first 7 weeks, he was an MVP candidate. And then he got sick, and then he kind of fell apart, and then he got hurt. And the season kind of spiraled from there. The defense was awful. And Wink Martindale lost his job, I think, in large part because of it. They have a lot of work to do on the defensive side of the football. I think on offense, Lamar healthy, J.K. Dobbins healthy, Gus Edwards healthy. Full season for Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews, best tight end in football. They do have a couple holes on the line. I think the offense is fine, but they need to hit in the draft and in free agency in the offseason on the defensive side of the football to get back to where they want to be. But I don't think it's as bad as it looked at the end of last season.
So you touched on this a little bit with that answer, but I'm wondering, what are the big stories to pay attention to during the pivotal offseason for the Ravens?
Big stories, the draft, obviously, and they're probably going to lose Bradley Bozeman to free agency. They need a center. Is that an in-house guy? Do they move Patrick McCarry to center? Tristan Colon is still on the roster. Is he the center? Do they draft a center? Do they sign one in free agency? Is Ronnie Stanley going to come back healthy? Because Ronnie Stanley not being what they expected him to be kind of helped this snowball effect of what happened. Signing Alejandro Villanueva was a huge misstep. They gave him $8 million and he wasn't any good. So getting Ronnie Stanley back healthy would be number one. And then again, what they do on the defensive side of the football. So free agency and the draft, I think, are really important. And also Lamar Jackson. Do they sign him to a long-term deal? Does he play on the 5th-year option, which is $23 million? Do they get him the offensive line, of course, that I talked about before, and just get the pieces they need? Because right now they're looking up at Cincinnati. Cincinnati's playing in the Super Bowl. They're young. They got cap room. They look like the beasts of the North right now.
And I know that we can talk about the Ravens all day long, but let's move to the Super Bowl. First question: the Rams have the best defensive front in football, anchored by Aaron Donald, who's arguably the best player in football over the last 5 years or so. So how in the world are the Bengals going to block the Rams?
You know, you mentioned Aaron Donald, and we had Phil Simms on our show the other day, and he was talking about Aaron Donald being the best sort of defensive lineman that can go inside or outside since Reggie White, which is saying something, because I think Reggie White arguably the best defensive lineman I've ever seen. And so Aaron Donald's tough. Here's the thing. The Bengals line stinks. Against the Titans, they got Burrow got sacked 9 times, but he's able to get up and just keep on going. I don't know that they're going to be able to stop Aaron Donald and Von Miller and Leonard Floyd and what they got going, but they're not going to sack him every play. And when he's able to get the ball off, other than Jalen Ramsey in their secondary, there's some guys they can pick on. And he's got T. Higgins and he's got Tyler Boyd. And it sounds like C.J. Uzomah is going to try to play. And Joe Mixon's a heck of a running back out of the backfield. And remember, the Rams, they took former Raven Eric Weddle off the couch, and he's playing safety in the Super Bowl for them because they're banged up on the back end. So I don't know that the Bengals are going to be able to contain that D-line, but I also don't know that that's going to stop the Bengals from winning the football game, if that makes sense.
Where does Joe Burrow rank among this new generation of quarterbacks?
Well, it's funny. We did this on the show. We do this segment on Inside Access. I do a show with Jason Lock-and-Ford called a Six Pack, and it was actually the six best quarterbacks in the AFC. But that's where all the young quarterbacks are. You know, the best quarterbacks in the NFC are the older guys: Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady until he retired. We agreed on this. It's Mahomes 1, Josh Allen 2. Right now, it's Joe Burrow 3. I think Justin Herbert 4. And then Lamar Jackson 5, because we live in this "what have you done for me lately" society. You know, before the season started, I think you could have made the argument that Joe Burrow was the 3rd best quarterback in the division, because you're thinking Lamar's 1, And Baker Mayfield just made the playoffs a year ago, won a playoff game. He's got all those weapons around him, got a great running game, and Burrow's coming off a major injury. And Roethlisberger should have retired a year ago, but that's a conversation for another day. But yeah, I think that Burrow, and if I'm not mistaken, if he wins the Super Bowl, he'll be the first quarterback ever to win a Heisman, a national championship, and a Super Bowl. And to do that in 3 years is kind of incredible. He's got Jamar Chase, who was his best wide receiver at LSU when he won a national championship. He's now his wide receiver with the Bengals. They were criticized for drafting him number one because, remember, he's coming off the knee injury because his line stunk. And I was among many who said, well, you got Rashawn Slater from Northwestern, you got Penei Sewell from Oregon, big time left tackles. They should draft one of those guys because they got to protect their investment in Joe Burrow. They didn't. They went Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is a game-changing wide receiver. He's big. He's fast. We saw what he did to Marlon Humphrey at M&T Bank Stadium earlier this year. So I think what Joe Burrow had, the other thing, his personality, it's obvious that he's a leader. It's obvious his teammates love him. And he's kind of a smiling assassin. He looks like this just sweet kid, but he'll rip your heart out and show it to you. So I think he's special, and I think he's going to be a problem for the Ravens for years to come.
Well, talking about quarterbacks, what's the better feel-good story? Joe Burrow playing in his first Super Bowl in his first full season, or Matthew Stafford playing in his first Super Bowl in his 13th season?
So I don't mean to cop out, and I'll explain, but I think they're both great stories for different reasons. Now, and I'll tell you a little side story. So Matthew Stafford used to play for the Lions. My brother Dennis, who is very involved at Bethel, his son Dylan, his oldest son Dylan, as a kid, he loves the color blue and he loves Lions. So he became a Lions fan for that very impressive reason. And so he loves Matthew Stafford. So now that Matthew Stafford is with the Rams, he's a huge Rams fan, a huge Stafford fan. So for that reason, he's rooting for the Rams. But anyhow, so Stafford's a guy, and we talked about it on the show yesterday. His stats are incredible, but until this year, he'd never won a playoff game because he played for the Lions, and the Lions have been lousy and incompetent as far as a franchise forever. But he had, Calvin Johnson, among others. He put up big numbers. So when you look at his numbers all time, he's amongst guys that are in the Hall of Fame, but he had no postseason success, so probably not worthy. But we discussed, does one Super Bowl, if he were to win, make him Hall of Fame worthy? Jason thinks yes, my co-host. I think no. I think he'd need to win two, just because he had never won a playoff game until this season. That said, he seems to be a well-liked guy in the league. Everybody seems to love him. And to endure what he did in Detroit for all those years and try to make it work in Detroit, and then not till late, we see the entitled athletes in sports today, and a lot in the NBA, where guys force their way out of places. James Harden just did it in a year. Like, he forced his way to the Brooklyn Nets, and then a year later he forced his way to the Sixers. Well, Stafford for 12 years played in Detroit and had no success, and now goes to the Rams. And if he wins a Super Bowl, I think it's a great story for him. For Burrow, the Bengals have been a lousy franchise for years, and a franchise that we thought was incompetent. Mike Brown, who didn't want to spend money. I think they have like 9 scouts, and the Ravens have 35. So it's like he's done everything bare bones. It's like a family business. And yet Duke Tobin, who is their de facto GM, has done a fantastic job of drafting over the last few years and getting Joe Burrow, who my understanding is teams were offering him 4 first-round picks for that pick a year ago. And Mike Brown told somebody, he said, I think he's Joe Montana. I'm not trading Joe Montana. And right now it looks like he might have been proven right, because he's sitting here in the Super Bowl, and they're not there without Burrow. If he were to win, and you mentioned Heisman, national championship, Super Bowl, all in 3 years, a Bengals franchise that has stunk for years, hadn't won a playoff game since 1988. If they were to win the Super Bowl, that's also a fantastic story.
Well, you're going to have to, this is an either or question here, so you're going to have to pick one or the other. Bengals head coach Zac Taylor is the former Rams assistant under Sean McVay. So which coach comes up with a better game plan? The student, Zac Taylor, or the teacher, Sean McVay?
So it's funny. I think McVay's brilliant. And coming into this season, I think Zac Taylor was on the hot seat. Like they had not done anything. If they would not have had a successful season this year, I think there was a chance Zac Taylor could have gotten fired. Now he's going to get a massive extension. He's going to get a massive extension with the Bengals. I think McVay overthought himself when they played the Patriots 3 years ago in the Super Bowl. And he said as much. Zac Taylor was on his staff at that game. I think they know each other's tendencies, but obviously as coaching wise, I think McVay has the major edge. I think he's just a savant, a prodigy. I think he has the edge.
Well, it's certainly going to be a really interesting sidebar, right? It's going to be fascinating to watch that. The second half should be really interesting to see how they both make adjustments. For sure.
Yes. The Bengals remember in the AFC Championship game, they were getting killed in the first half against Kansas City. They made defensive adjustments. They held the Chiefs to 3 points after halftime in the AFC title game.
Well, we're going to take it home with a couple of other softball questions for you. So we love a good nosh on the Super Bowl. This year, maybe we're going to try some challah-wrapped pigs in a blanket with kosher hot dogs, pulled brisket sliders, or Reuben French fries. So what are some of your favorite foods to nosh on during the big game?
Well, my mother once said, I am the pickiest fat person she knows. And so in light of, I'm good. Though I will say the kosher hot dog wrapped in challah sounds really good. I'm a good chicken wing guy. Give me a chicken wing and I'm good with that. Or some chips and salsa. I'm good with that. Just something easy that I like. Just keep the raisins away from me and I'm good.
I've got a great chicken wing recipe dusted with dry rub with Old Bay and garlic powder.
That sounds fantastic. Old Bay honey is one of my favorites.
So Ken, while you're enjoying all of that, what's your expectation, your prediction on the final score?
So I've ridden the Bengals all the way through the playoffs. I picked them to win every week. Their kicker is Evan McPherson. He was their 5th round pick this year. He is the most clutch rookie kicker since Justin Tucker in 2012, who helped the Ravens win a Super Bowl, and the Bengals for the first time ever win a Super Bowl.
Well, Ken, we will see soon enough how close you are and how
I'll
right
be way
you
off.
are. Ken, thank you again on behalf of the Bethel Men's Club. We really appreciate your giving us your time and your expectations and your professional thoughts. Thank you again.
You're welcome anytime, guys, and enjoy the game.